For another perspective on the political climate in Hungary now, I'm joined by Anita Komuves, an award-winning journalist in Budapest, working with the investigative outlet Atlatszo. In the days since the election, we've seen protests in the streets. How would you describe the political atmosphere in the country now?
Yes, we have seen a huge protest in Budapest last Saturday, and that expresses that this city, a huge international metropolis, is fed up with Viktor Orban. And there was a huge expectation here in Budapest that the elections would bring a change. And that was expressed in the protests. But in the countryside, the situation is entirely different. People are trusting Viktor Orban with keeping the country safe. Many people don't like his policies or don't like the corruption that's going on, but they still believe that he's the only one who can keep the country safe. So there's a huge divide between the capital and the countryside.
When you say keep the country safe, what is it that Orban supporters like about him?
So Viktor Orban and the huge propaganda machine that he built up have been pushing out the message of the threat of migration for more than 2 years now. And this is very strong. There is a 24/7 TV news channel that's pushing out this message every single second that a wave of migrants are coming to Hungary, which is actually not true at the moment. We have no migrants here at the border. But still, this message is being put out there, and people believe that this is a huge threat to their security and their life. And they believe that Viktor Orban is the only one who will protect them from this.
I know you've done a fair bit of investigative work about the media and the message that the people in Hungary are receiving. And there has been talk about Russian influence. You say that's perhaps not to be concerned about in the traditional sense of meddling as we consider it here in the West. Tell me what you're getting at.
So it's actually the opposite. This is something that we really have to be concerned about because Russia has a huge influence on Hungary. For example, we are building a new nuclear plant with Russian money built by the Russians. And while Vladimir Putin is meeting our prime minister at least once a year. What I was getting at in my story is that we don't have to be afraid of Russian fake news sites and trolls. And the reason for that is that the Hungarian public service media and government-funded media are pushing out these messages. So actually there is no need for the fake news sites because Russian fake news is coming from the media that Orban is funding from taxpayer money. So actually the threat is bigger than in the West, I think.
What does it mean for a journalist like you?
To me, it means that it's very hard to get my message across. We write a story, but it's very hard to reach people because they are getting flooded by propaganda messages, and it's just hard to break through the noise of fake news.
Is there any sense, I guess, among the population about, or any criticism among the population about the kind of information they're getting? I mean, certainly in the United States and even in Canada, there's a conversation going on about what people see in the media.
Of course, there is a conversation, but I think it's mainly among journalists and people in Budapest who are highly educated. In the countryside, people don't really realize what they see. Media literacy is not taught in schools. So many people would just watch a newscast and wouldn't even realize what news channel they were watching and whether that channel was trustworthy. Which is, it's an obvious reaction from somebody who is just a regular person and doesn't care too much about the politics. That would be normal. And they don't realize that this is a different world from like 10 years ago when probably newscasts were more trustworthy and not flooded with fake news.
You've spoken about the deep divisions within Hungary, the protests that we saw last weekend, the different kind of political outlook in the countryside. What are you watching for now? What should we be watching for?
You should be watching for this new Stop Soros bill that might be passed in the beginning of May, and that might affect NGOs and civil society. And I think that's very important because civil society is crucial for every democracy. And if Orban is crushing that, it's going to be really bad here. And you should also watch out for the media scene, because we already had a radio station, a newspaper, and an English language website closed down in the past 2 weeks. And the space for independent media might be shrinking even more.
Anita, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.